Good morning. Hope you're having a great Saturday as we open up with it's so hard. I'm struggling. Good morning, everybody. Baylen Hite here this morning on News Now Warsaw and across our Kensington digital media stations. And getting into our real estate corner, I'd like to welcome into everyone, Mrs. Stacie Schlichtenmyer. And Stacie, it's so great to have you here. It's so great to be able to talk to you every week, every Saturday morning about real estate here in Northern Indiana.
It's awesome. I am pumped. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
The biggest thing that we want to accomplish today is we get to know you a little bit. Just learn your background. Learn, what got you into real estate. What areas do you feel like you best served, and what are some things that are happening right now in the world of real estate. But let's just start with you. Give us a little bit of a background. I got to know you a little bit already. You're a girl who likes to be on the water, it sounds
Sure.
like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to have a bad day on the water. So I originally have a background in healthcare, actually. I spent 15 years in healthcare. So around COVID, I was working in healthcare and had a baby. And so it was really a good time for a change of life. And real estate was something I've always been interested in. And so in 2022, I finally took the plunge. And so I serve buyers and sellers, obviously, in Kosciusko County and surrounding. Yes, my passion is absolutely the lakes. I live on Pike Lake, and I'm part of Lake City Skiers and a part of the Watershed Foundation. So the water is my life.
And you're with Keller Williams, correct?
Yes, yep. We're with Keller Williams. We're the largest real estate brokerage in the world, and we're expanding in Warsaw.
Fantastic. Yeah, a lot on the horizon. So it's a really great time to get you on here and just get to talk to you, because it sounds like there's some things building for you and Keller Williams that are going to be able to help people here in Kosciusko County. I want to start there. What is in your mind, how important is that, the fact that you're from around here, the area, being an agent?
Oh, being a local agent, it's everything. For example, a lot of times the relationships with the other agents, it's very helpful, and knowing the areas. So when someone says, oh, I want to live on the lake, I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. I have 57 more questions, right? Because living on a lake is different to everyone, and it depends on exactly what you're looking for. And then obviously we have so many amazing lakes in our county. And so I love being able to kind of brainstorm and, give people information about those different lakes, and so kind of help them, to self-discover what would be best for them.
Looking at your background and looking at your start here in real estate, is there a moment, do you feel like, you kind of remember, or maybe a listing or a sale that it just kind of all clicked for you? Do you have that moment in your background, or was
oh my
was
goodness.
it a part of a year?
I would say the first 2+ years in real estate are hard. They are rough, right? You don't know anything. You don't know anybody. It's really hard to get repeat and referral business when you have barely sold any houses. So I would say that, after I heard so many people say, oh, once you get a few years in, right? You get a few years in and your vibe attracts your tribe. And I remember those first 2 years thinking, anytime now. And so, yes, I would say give it a few years. And then you realize that you know nothing as well after those years. It's just it's a wonderful time. You can always learn more. Yeah.
But I think that's a testament also to who you are as an agent and what you're able to do to help people, because you got through that kind of early part. You're making all those learning adjustments, and you're building your foundation, but now you're set up because you've been through that to be able to help people around here.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think when I first started, I was so nervous that I didn't know. I didn't know so many things, right? And I didn't want other people to know that I didn't know. And now I do feel like I've been doing it long enough that I'm comfortable to say, hey, you know what? I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
A little bit about you away from realty, or as real estate. Let me rephrase that. I know you're very involved. You're on the water quite a bit, but where else can people kind of find you around here in Kosciusko County?
Oh, so I'm very active. My favorite thing in the entire world is to be outside and be active with my family. So we are in the parks all the time. We also, I'm part of a run club on the weekends. Saturday mornings, we meet down at Buffalo, right at the courthouse. So, basically I'm outside, as soon as it's warm out until it's not anymore.
I'm going to put you through your paces here a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to come up to you. I'm going to say, okay, Stacie, I'd like to buy a home. I'm looking here in Kosciusko County. Where do I start? I'm very open-ended.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you get a question, I want to live on the lake.
Yeah.
There's 50 other questions. But
Okay.
Let's just start this process.
Sure.
Let's start this process.
Okay.
Where do you take people from there?
So, I mean, honestly, a lot of times it's a little bit of me trying to get to know, if I don't know the person, then like, that's so awesome. Like, what makes you want to buy a home in Kosciusko County?
I just like the area. I work here. I want to be close within the area. I'm not necessarily looking to live on the lake, maybe, but wouldn't be opposed to it either.
Okay, awesome. So what I'm hearing is that work moved you to Kosciusko County, and you potentially are open to being on the lake. What's important about being on the lake?
Nice weather, nice water. When the weather's nice, I guess I should say, just something to come home to.
Okay. So you more so want to look at the water, or do you want to be active in the water?
Probably just look at the water.
Okay. All right. Well, that definitely gives you more options. And so all of the lakes you can look at, right? But you can't ski on all of them. And I mean, you can fish on all of them, and some of them are private. So first, what we would do is I would encourage you to reach out to a local lender. And so what we really want to do is we want to see where you stand if you've never looked at what it takes to buy a house. So my first, having a lender partners, which I have, several lender partners locally that, I'm happy to refer clients to. Most importantly, if I'm working with someone, I want them to be comfortable with who they're working with. So if they have a local lender, or if they have someone even that's not local that they have a relationship with, then I say, by all means, but definitely shop around, because the rates vary for different people, and you want to, find what fits your needs best.
I want to start there. I will kind of pause that impromptu, but
Sure.
it was fun. You're not gonna be able to see her as we're talking. We're talking obviously over there here this morning, but watching your mind kind of put together these. Okay, I'm thinking, where can I place you? Here. I can really see the energy, and I love that. I love that it's coming through. But I want to start with the lending process a little bit. And obviously, you're going to recommend to lenders, but I just feel like, especially, I just bought a home 2 years ago, right? Post-COVID, just awesome interest rates all around. I should say post-COVID, during that COVID, that 2020-21 stretch. Then it shot up. Now it started to trickle back down.
Yeah.
How have you seen, I guess, buyers and sellers kind of adjust to that? What have you seen from your eyes in regards to those interest rates?
So currently, the rates have just kind of went up a little bit more as well. And so depending on, the type of buyer that I'm helping, if it's a first-time home buyer, like money is expensive right now. And so a lot of times we're asking for like seller concessions. We're asking for maybe a little bit of concessions at closing, or potentially a down payment assistance. There are a lot of programs, actually one that just launched a couple of days ago for first time home buyers, where they could get up to $20,000 grant assistance. So there are a lot of programs and ways to help buyers. But yeah, it's a lot of times it's coming together. So, you have a seller that wants to sell a house and a buyer that wants to buy a house. And so it's a little bit of a give and take. And so that's what we're seeing in this market now.
You mentioned that product. Anything else on that, or kind of how has that changed the market already?
So I've had a lot of people that have been very interested, because they know it's kind of coming in the pipeline. And so it just launched on the 14th. There's a set amount of dollars. It's the Launch Down Payment Assistance Program. And so there are certain lenders that offer this program. And so it's really important that if it's something that you are interested in, that you are seeking out a lender that, can provide that information for you. But yeah, there are a lot of things out there. Every day I remember, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. So
once again, we're talking here this morning with Stacie Schlichtenmyer, talking all things real estate here in Kosciusko County, from the lakes to even late life buying. We talked about that a little bit before we got on the microphone here. That's something that you've started. I don't want to call it late life buying, but it is kind of that downsizing. Okay, you've lived in a home, kids are out, and you're starting to make those decisions of where you want to go and how you want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's a new avenue for you.
Yes. Yeah. So I remember first getting into real estate, and people would say like, oh, what's your specialty, or what's your niche? And I'm like, homes? I don't know. Are you kidding? I'm just trying to figure this out here. But obviously with anything, as time and experience comes along, you kind of figure out, what you like and what you're good at. And I've got to be honest, like, I love old people. That's okay to say. I can definitely identify with an older generation. And I, living around Pike Lake, a lot of my neighbors are elderly. And so I see some of the needs, and the needs for, the generation of my parents, the baby boomers, they're just very different. And so sitting with potential sellers that are interested, they have a need or a want to get to another place, but they don't have the means to get there. And there's so much involved with selling sometimes a house that's been in the family for 30 years. And a lot of times you have family members that aren't local. And so it's just a lot of logistics, and it's a lot of stress on someone who is probably in a position in life where, they really can't handle all of that on their own. So being a resource, if you will, an advisor to them, to be able to help them, with those resources, to just make the process smoother is something that I've been very interested in and been working towards.
And I think planning now, just thinking through, I feel like planning is a very important part about that. Maybe even being 3 to 5 years ahead of the curve.
Sure.
Because you just mentioned maybe people aren't in the area able to help, but also, maybe there's a medical injury. Maybe there's something where someone has to get out of a home because of a medical issue, and you kind of want to be prepared for that. So is that also something that you can kind of do and then kind of guide them early in the process, say, here's where we're going and here's how we're going to do it?
Yes, absolutely. So the idea of kind of being like the family, realtor, if you will, and you're that advisor for them when you kind of like see these things. So we have a lot of times people in late generation, when they're looking to downsize or right size, as we call it, they will be looking for, obviously, maybe not that 2-story anymore. They're looking for a ranch. They're looking for sometimes a villa. So then they're not having to deal with like grounds maintenance and landscaping and things like that. So a lot of times it's like steps along the way, to kind of figure out what'll be best for them. And it's essentially, almost like a plan or like a prescription, if you will. It's I like being a part of that process and just being able to be like a resource.
Well, I'm getting some ideas for some of our future episodes, and I definitely think we probably need to dedicate at least 2 episodes, probably more to that, maybe a whole month, as we talk to you here every Saturday morning. Probably, I think something might be good is the perspective of a child, where you have a parent who's a little bit older, and it's time to kind of move them out. Maybe that's with you, maybe that's to a care facility or to a right size home, as you said, and then probably from the perspective of that parent or of that person who's in that late stage of life. I think that's great information for them to hear and to be prepared for. But we're going to talk about all things on this show. We're going to talk about that first time buyer, that first time seller, how to get approved, what you need to start to get in order to get approved or to find a lender, and also just the moving process, really anything to involve real estate. We're gonna be able to talk about that with our local expert here, and I cannot wait. I'm going to hit you with 2 quick fire questions before we go. First time home buyer, biggest mistake they make every single time.
They don't get pre-approved before they go looking at houses. And then they miss out on the house that they love, and then no house ever compares to that one house.
Biggest mistake a seller makes.
Overprices their house.
Okay. And I want to go into that one a little bit because is that more of that emotional
absolutely
feel to it? Because it's a home you've lived in, you feel like it's worth more.
Sure.
And there's probably different situations for everybody. But you can still price a house probably pretty fairly and get your value back on that home.
Absolutely, yes. When sitting with sellers and talking about pricing, it is an emotional thing. And so that was something I didn't realize getting into real estate, is that buying and selling and helping people do that is about so much more than actually buying and selling, right? So talking to them, and a lot of times it is figuring out what's most important. I've found out that sometimes getting the highest price is not the most important. So that's my first question when I sit with a seller is like, what are your goals? Because for some, that's not the goal. And obviously, we're not on the same page if we don't know, if we don't know the same goal and we're working towards the same thing. But yeah, really having that conversation as far as like, if we price the house at market value, we know statistics show us that only 60% of buyers are even going to come and see that house because people are looking online. People are already looking at that. Buyers are smart, right? Everyone has Zillow on their phone. They're looking at it at 2 and 3 a.m. Even if you're not looking for a house, you're still looking on Zillow. Everyone's doing it. Yep. So you're able to compare in real time, and everyone is comparing your house compared to everyone else's in that. And so when you're sitting with the seller, it's like, your competition is all of your neighbors. And so, do you want the most amount of eyes on your home or the least? And so in this market, if it's priced right, we can still elicit multiple offers.
Mm-hmm.
And so then having that conversation is, would you like to have multiple offers to choose from, or would you like one? And so if we overprice it, the chances of us getting any offers right away are lesser. And then after we've been on the market for a while, what's the first thing everyone says when a house has been on the market? What's wrong with it?
Yep.
And then next thing you know, like, you're chasing the market, and then you end up closing at a price that is less than you would have if you would have priced it appropriately to begin with.
So it sounds like you lean with that little bit more of that appropriate price, probably try to take a little bit less than what you were expecting, because you may end up with more than you think.
Absolutely. And then being realistic, because just because we went under contract at that price, we still have an appraisal to get through if it's a finance loan, and we still have inspections to get through. So really, like, setting the expectations for the seller, because if they've never done this before, they have no idea what to expect. And so with the inspection process, there may be repairs, that need to be made. There may be credits that the seller, is going to be requested to take, or to give. So those are just things that we want to make sure that we're, letting our sellers know, setting that expectation. Because I tell all of my clients, the last thing I want is to be at the closing table and for you to be surprised about anything, right? Like, I have not done my job if you're like, what's going on, right?
Well, that is something we're going to talk about very soon. I think as we lead into our next couple of episodes, I want to start with that beginning process of buying the home, selling the home. We'll talk about that lake home, or that, or what's the difference of living in a residential area versus living on the lake, and things you need to be prepared for so you're not surprised at the closing table. But Stacie, as we kind of close out our first episode, where can people find you? How can they find you, and how can they hear from you?
So we have a new office downtown Warsaw. We are going to have a grand opening very soon, so TBD on that. But you can call me or text me at 574-334-7105. My email address is lakecitystacie, and that's lakecity, STACIE, and at kw.com.
Fantastic. And if you missed any part of today's episode and you want to go ahead and listen to it back, you'll be able to find that on our newsnowwarsaw.com. You just go down to local shows, slide down, there'll be a drop-down menu. You'll be able to click that, and you'll find all of our archive shows here with Stacie Schlichtenmyer. So we're going to close out our first episode. Have a great rest of your Saturday, everybody. We'll talk to you at the same time next week. Feel good about it?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.